Hello, Brownies. My name's Rainbow Owl, and I'm with the first Holland Landing Brownies in East Gwillimbury, Ontario. Today I'm going to be reading a story to you from How the Girl Guides Won the War by Janie Hampton. It's about the history of brownies. So get cozy, get settled in, and let Rainbow Owl tell you a story. Younger girls had not been forgotten, and brownies for girls aged from 7 to 11 were formed in July 1914, just before the war broke out. Each brownie pack was divided into sixes, of up to 6 girls named after fairies, goblins, and other phantasmagoria. From the age of about 8, a brownie could assume responsibility as a second in command of her 6, and then work her way up to lead it as a sixer. The pack's leaders were called Brown Owl, assisted by Tawny Owl, to continue the woodland theme. You might have a brown owl in your brownie unit, or a tawny owl, a snowy owl, a barn owl. Those are all the traditional names of leaders. In my unit, I'm the rainbow owl. We do have a tawny owl, and we have a cupcake owl. And all of our girl assistants are named after helpful forest creatures like fawn, bumblebee, and flutterby. Baden-Powell, that's our founder, had always been keen on small people. In our army, we have a battalion of very small men called bantams, who were not big enough for the ordinary regiments, he wrote in the Handbook for Brownies. They very soon showed that at fighting they were as good as anybody else. A small man can have a big heart and plenty of pluck in him. So, even though a brownie is small, she too can be as brave and strong as a bigger girl if she likes to make herself so. The brownies are little people who do good to big people. Bogarts are little people who do no good. They are ugly and noisy and dirty and selfish. So we have no use for Bogarts among the brownies. Baden-Powell suggested that each brownie pack make a toadstool as their totem. Like true fairies, brownies can make their ring anywhere, not only in the woods or out in the grass, but even in a town and in a room. Toadstools were very easy to make out of paper mache, and it could be stored in a cupboard. We all joined hands round the toadstool and danced around singing it, remembered Mary Allingham, a former brownie. We're the brownies, here's our aim. Lend a hand and play the game. And then everyone shouted, la, 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 and saluted. It all seemed like magic to me. Does your brownie unit still dance around a toadstool? Do you still sing that same song? We're the brownies, here's our aim. Lend a hand and play the game. Our unit sure does. Baden-Powell took on the important job of writing the Brownie Handbook himself. His understanding of tracking animals was better than his knowledge of biology, and he was very worried about germs. They are little beasts floating about in the air called germs. They are squirmy-looking little beggars and very dangerous, because if they get inside you, they will give you an illness of one kind or another. These squirmy-looking little beggars were more likely to attack brownies who breathed with their mouths. Nose breathing with real cold, fresh air out of doors alone will help you to grow and be strong. Isn't that kind of funny? That's sort of what we're worried about today, isn't it? There's a lot of talk about germs going around. I don't know that we need to worry so much about not breathing through our mouths as we do washing our hands properly and regularly. Brownies were encouraged to exercise their imaginations, but only within limits. Too much imagination led them astray. Good brown owls had read Estrel's Pelly's Brownie Games. Brown Owl must keep the games going and never for a minute let the pack come down to the earth with a bump, she wrote. Brown Owl must lead her brownies from one excitement to another, and they will follow her blissfully, and she will keep the right atmosphere to the very end of the game. Do you get to use your imaginations at your brownie meetings? I know my brownies really enjoy imaginative games. It's hard to place any limits on our imagination, though. It's hard to understand what he was thinking when he said that. At her enrollment, each new brownie makes a brownie promise, while saluting with her right hand vertical, the palm facing outwards, pointing to the sky. The two middle fingers represent the two promises. The first law is that brownies give in to older folk, said Baden-Powell. The second is that a brownie does not give in to herself. So, that's interesting. How we make our promise is still very similar. How do we do it today? I promise to do my best, to be true to myself, my beliefs, and Canada. I will take action for a better world and respect the brownie law. What they did was different. It was more like the Sparks salute. And they had only two promises, just like the Sparks. Things have definitely changed quite a bit since Baden-Powell's time. Each six then danced around the toadstool while singing its own special song. The pixies sing, "Look out, we're the jolly pixies, helping people when in fixies." The imps, "We're the ever-helpful imps, quick and quiet as any shrimps." There were also the Welsh fairies. "We're the botchod from Wales, filling farmers' milking pails." Do you have circle units in your group? My brownie unit does. And sometimes we even still call them sixes because Rainbow Owl's old and forgets that times have changed. In our groups, we have sprites, fairies, gnomes, and elves. What kind of circle groups do you have? I know lots of different units that use different styles of naming their circle groups. I even know some dragons and unicorns. Once enrolled, a brownie began her second-class test, for which she was expected to know the history of the Union Jack, tie 4 complicated knots, make a useful article with a hem and decorative tacking, sew on 2 types of buttons, understand the importance of clean teeth, bowl a hoop, skip 20 times backwards, catch a ball 6 times, and lay a table for dinner. Quite the accomplishment for an 8-year-old. To attain first-class standard, a brownie had to understand semaphore, have grown a bulb, tie up a parcel, knit a jumper, lay and light a fire, cook a milk pudding, make tea, memorize a message, fold clothes neatly, skip with her feet crossing, bandage a grazed knee, know how to put a person out who's on fire, throw a ball accurately overarm, and sing God Save the King. Well, we still do some of those things. My brownies are learning how to lay and light a fire. They've experimented with something similar to semaphore, doing some code work, and a few of the other things we mentioned we're working on. But today the program's a bit different in that you girls get to choose what's interesting to you and what you want to do. There's no pre-prescribed way of doing things or things you have to achieve. We get to learn as we go, and every year is different. From the start, all brownies wore the same basic uniform, wherever they were in the world, so that they could be one sisterhood. Brownie uniform included a knitted beret, or woven rush hat, brown leather belt, brown shoes, a brown hair ribbon, and brown cotton knickers. The brown cotton shift dress was designed to accommodate the growth of both the legs and the bosom. In India, bluebirds, which is what they called their brownies there, wore thick black stockings and white sola topis. Taking into account the fact that many families had little money, girls were allowed to wear their brownie uniforms for up to a year after becoming guides. Brownies were often photographed in their uniform, the only presentable outfit they owned. I bet not everybody enjoyed their uniforms back then. When I was a brownie in the 1980s, I had to wear a dress. I did rather like it, but it wasn't very practical for some of the activities that we were doing. Today, in Girl Guides of Canada, we still wear the uniform, and now we all wear the same kind of uniform. So, some things are the same and some have changed. Well, there's still more that we could read, because it is a very long book. But I think that's the gist of it, the history of how the Brownies started and what it was like at the very beginning 100 years ago. I hope you've enjoyed reading this with me, and I hope that you learned something. Happy 100th birthday, Brownies!